Hey guys, nice to see you again. Today we're making French baguettes. A baguette is a long baton-shaped bread. It has a deep yeasty aroma, a chewy interior, and a crackling crisp crust. Yum! Baguettes are made from nothing more than yeast, flour, salt, and water. So what I have here is 1/3 cup of lukewarm water, and to this I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And we stir this just briefly. And then we're going to set it aside to let the little yeast granules dissolve. That will take about 5 minutes. Now, while the yeast is dissolving, pour 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour into a large mixing bowl and add 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt. Then grab a spoon and mix the flour and the salt together. Then take your yeast and add it to the bowl. Also add 1 1/4 cups of lukewarm water. This is going to make a very soft dough. And then we stir the mixture together. Yeah, this is a very sticky dough, and you want it to remain sticky pretty much throughout the duration of the baguette making process. Sticky dough makes the best baguettes. Then, move that aside, we're going to tip this dough onto a board. I'm using my marble board. Let's see if I have a knife here to scrape this excess dough off. And we're going to let this dough rest for about 2 minutes so that the flour particles can absorb the moisture. So I'll be right back. Oh, meanwhile, wash out and dry the bowl. We're going to need it again. And now we have to knead the dough. I'm going to use my bench scraper. You can buy one of these in any kitchen supply store, or you could even use a flat spatula. And we're going to scoop up the dough with the left hand. And then with the right hand, we are going to fling it forcefully onto this unfloured board. And we're going to do this about 40 times. So I will come back, around the 39th time or so. Okay, I'm back. Now, the dough is so sticky that it was sticking to my hand, and you really do not want to add any additional flour at this time. So I have a bowl of warm water, and I found that if I stick my hand in the bowl, the dough won't stick to it. My hand, I mean. And this kneading technique is one I actually learned from a French chef. So it probably looks a little strange to you. You're probably used to kneading this way and folding the dough over. But this dough is just too sticky to knead in the traditional manner. And that, my friends, is 40 times. And we're going to let this rest for about 5 minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, our 5-minute rest is up, and already this dough is starting to soften up a little bit. At this point, you can add a little bit of flour, not much. Work it in, and continue kneading for another 40 rounds. Lizzie Borden took an axe. Well, you know that story. Okay, the dough is much, much softer now. It's much less sticky, but it's still a little bit sticky, and that's exactly what we want. So here's our cleaned out bowl. And just for the sake of easy cleanup later on, I'm going to lightly spritz it with some vegetable spray. And then we put the dough right in the bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and then we have to set this in a warm location until the dough triples in volume. So it needs to come up to about here. Now for the very best flavor, don't let the dough rise too quickly. Ideally, it should rise in a room that is 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And if your house is really cold, like mine in winter, you can always set the dough on a common drugstore heating pad set to the medium setting. I'm going to put my dough, just to save time, in my proofing oven, which is set at 100 degrees. At 72 degrees Fahrenheit, the dough will triple in volume in about 3 hours. In a proofing oven at 100 degrees, the same rise will occur in about 90 minutes. I'll be back. Well, good news. I did not use my oven's proofing feature after all. I just used the heating pad, and the bread rose in only 2.5 hours. As you can see, it's tripled in volume. Just what we wanted. So off comes the plastic, away with the heating pad for a moment, and then I'm going to sprinkle just a little flour on my marble board. Here's a little trick. If you don't want to overuse flour, put it in a little sieve like this. And then gently, oops, I should have floured my fingers. Then gently remove and deflate this sticky dough from the bowl, and add a little more flour to your fingers and on top of the dough. And then pat it out into a rough rectangle. Let me see if I can move this better so you can see. Then we're going to fold the dough as if we were folding a business letter. In the age of email, who remembers how to fold a business letter? So I folded this part over 1/3 and then the other side over that, and then you fold the ends like so. And you don't have to be perfect about this. And then this goes back into the bowl, but again, I'm going to give it just a light spritz of vegetable spray. Put it back in the bowl, and we're going to let this rise just until it has doubled in volume. And that should only take about an hour this time, maybe an hour and a half, but that's all. And I'm going to do it once again on my little heating pad. So I'll be back. All right, I'm back, and I had a visitor, and my dough actually rose to triple again, which is not what I wanted. I only wanted it to double in volume. Oh well, don't let visitors come to call when you are making baguettes. Now for this next step, we have to take a baking sheet and line it with parchment paper. And then we're going to sprinkle some cornmeal over the paper. That's going to be anti-sticking insurance. Then, this time I'm going to remember to flour not only my board, but my fingers too. And then We're going to, once again, gently deflate the dough and place it on the board, like so. And then a little more flour on the fingers and on top of the dough. And then we pat it out. And we're going to form the baguettes now. So we take either a knife or our bench scraper. And we're going to divide this into thirds, more or less equal thirds. There's 1, 2, and 3. And what we do is fold the little sections over on themselves. I hope you can see how I did that. Then we're going to let these rest for just 1 or 2 minutes. There are lots of fancy ways to form baguettes, and I've tried them all, but I think the easiest is to just form each third into a rectangle and then tightly roll from end to end. And then pinch the seam like this. This is a fun job. Then, roll up my sleeves a little, starting in the middle, roll the dough to form a baguette shape. And just don't form them so long that they are too long for your baking sheet. I think my baking sheet is about 16 inches in length. And then move this over here, and I'll put it up here so you can see. Transfer the baguette, I can go a little longer here, to the cornmeal line baking sheet. I'll try to make my next baguette a little bit longer. Again, form it into a rough rectangle and tightly roll from end to end. And then either pinch or you could karate chop the seam just to seal it. Then starting in the middle, roll the baguette out to the length of your baking sheet. Well, this one's going much better than the first one. Onto the baking sheet. And one more. Well, I'll finish this and then I'll come back. And here they are, 3 baguettes. And we have to cover these with plastic wrap, but we don't want the plastic wrap to stick to the dough as it rises. So what you do is put the plastic wrap on top and then spray it with vegetable spray and then turn the wrap upside down like this. And set this in a warm location to rise, for about 30 minutes. And then let me show you how to prepare the oven. Preheat your oven to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. Then take a baking sheet and place it on the lowest rack in the oven. And make sure you have another rack in the center of the oven. Then add water to the baking sheet. And as the oven heats, the water will come to a simmer and create tons of humidity. And it's the humidity that makes the baguettes develop a very crisp crust. All right, my oven has heated to 550 and the water in that pan is at a simmer. And here are the baguettes. They have doubled in volume. So for this next step, you take a spray bottle filled with water and mist each baguette. Then grab some common kitchen shears and make some slits. And you just hold the shears straight up like this and snip. And if all goes according to plan, these little gashes will open up as the loaves bake, and it will also help them to, well, supposedly it will help them to have an even top. Give you a close-up of those slits. So this is going into the oven for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to turn the oven off and let the baguettes remain in the oven for 5 minutes. I'll be back. Oh, I forgot to tell you, every 5 minutes, spray the loaves with a little bit of water. That will, again, help them to brown. Okay, 5 minutes are up. Spritz, spritz, spritz. And again, do this every 5 minutes during the 15-minute baking period. Okay, my baguettes are done, and I actually let them cook or bake for 20 minutes, and then I turned the oven off and let them just sit for 5 additional minutes because I wanted them to develop some extra color and to make sure the interiors were cooked through. And the baguettes turned a beautiful shade of brown. I hope you can see all right. And we need to let these cool to room temperature before cutting into them. Skip that. We can cut into one. Grab my little cutting board here because I want you to hear the snap, crackle, and pop. Whoa, delicious. Oh, yum, it's still really hot. Now, all this baguette needs is a little bit of butter. And then we can taste it. Crispy and just amazing as it can be. And you can taste the little bit of salt in bread. And I forgot to tell you, always add some salt whenever you're making bread. Otherwise, the bread will be as bland as dust. And there is nothing bland at all about this baguette. One more bite. Oh, absolutely delicious. Well, heaven help me, but I think I'm going to finish off this one baguette tonight. Maybe it will be dinner. And I hope you'll give these baguettes a try. They're not hard to make, and they're absolutely worth your time. And I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. There's a little subscribe button over here somewhere. And I hope you'll post a comment below. Let me know if this video was helpful to you in some teeny tiny way. And I'll see you next time with another delicious recipe. Bye for now.